How's it going, everyone? Hope you're all doing well. It has certainly been a month. If some of you watching this weren't aware, last month I basically committed to only doing reviews. Kind of felt like a challenge, and while it was certainly enjoyable, it's nice to be doing this again. So today, seeing as I have bought my fair share of used phones in the past, I thought we should talk about just how old you should actually go when looking for a phone. Alright, so I'm back home now. Had to go out quickly to get some food, but now we're gonna move on to the main topic of this video. So, to start things off, I am a big fan of buying used phones. As I said before, I think it's a good way to save some money, it keeps cool tech out of landfill, and if you don't need the latest and greatest or actually want a feature like 3D touch that's no longer made, it is a good way to get exactly what you want with a phone. Now, as some of you may know, my first iPhone was an iPhone 7 back in 2019, which I did buy used from eBay, and at the time, it was a really great phone. So today we're going to be talking Android, we're going to be talking iPhone, and we're going to be talking Google Pixel. I'll explain why in a minute. So I think the first thing you need to consider is this going to be a test phone to see if you like the operating system or the design, or is this going to be your personal daily driver phone? Because I think this is two completely separate arguments. I think if it's just going to be a test phone, then you can get away with going slightly older, but I still wouldn't recommend going too old just in case you have like a bad experience and that puts you off the phone altogether when it could be perfect for you. So yeah, first of all, let's talk Androids. First of all, for budget Android phones, I probably wouldn't recommend buying used at all. Realistically, the savings aren't going to be all that good. It's going to be pretty tricky to track down a lot of them because not a lot of people do sell their budget Android phones. And because of the low specs and low price tag, chances are they don't actually last very long as it is. Now, of course, there are some exceptions to this. However, as a rule, if you want things like software updates and security, I wouldn't recommend buying a used budget Android phone. Now, higher priced Android phones, completely different story. For example, I think it is totally fine to buy a used higher price Android phone. Some examples of this would be like the Samsung S10 or S20, things from OnePlus's line, and maybe a higher end Huawei. And while I personally am not a big fan of Huawei, I just don't really like the design. I think they put way too many gimmicky features in their phones that aren't really all that useful. But if those features do apply to you, then who am I to tell you not to? For those previous mentioned brands, I generally wouldn't recommend going past the previous generation. Maybe the Samsung Galaxy S10 is the exception here, but I tend to find that once you get past that 1 year mark, Android phones do start getting a little bit slower, and after that 2 year mark, you're probably better off buying a budget current Android phone. This is for a couple of reasons. So of course, some phones are going to vary from others, so make sure to check your smartphone manufacturer before you go out and buy something. But when it comes to Androids, I find there are three major components in how long a device is going to last. First one is OS support, so how long that device is going to be supported by Android. The second is security. So that's basically how many years of security updates it's going to get from the manufacturer. Usually with Android phones, it's 2 or 3. And the third is hardware. So this may be things like processor, RAM, storage. When buying a used Android, it is very important that you consider these. One thing I've noticed with a few Samsung devices I've used over the years is that over time, they will eventually fill up with stuff you can't really delete. Now, while you can easily wipe your phone, do you want to be dealing with that? Well, that's up to you. Me personally, I don't think that's too big of a deal. I mean, wiping your phone really isn't that difficult, but for a lot of people, they just want a phone that works. It's also important to make sure that it has a fast enough processor to run modern applications, along with a good amount of headroom if you want to keep your phone for a while. You can find all of this out pretty easily by either checking the manufacturer's website, looking up blogs, or even watching videos like mine. So yeah, when buying a used Android phone, just be careful. Know exactly what you're getting yourself into, know exactly what to expect. Of course, do all the usual things that you do when buying a phone. Check your camera specs, check your features, check your colors. I mean, that one's less important, but still nice to know. And you should have a great time with your used Android phone. But what about used iPhones? Hey, look at that. Back in my garden. All right, so now we're going to be talking about iPhones. How old should you go? What do you need to look for? And, well, that's pretty much it, actually. Okay, so going back to what I said about the specs on the Android side of things, I've generally found this to be less important on the iPhone side of things, and I'll be explaining why that is, but you shouldn't completely disregard it. For example, with the A13 processor, you got a lot of new photo processing. 4 GB of RAM is certainly going to give you more headroom than 3, and so while it's not as important, it is still important to consider, but more from a feature side than a longevity side. Okay, so security updates, iPhones generally get around 5 years. Occasionally, there are exceptions to this. I think the iPhone 6 got 4, and I think the 6S got like 6. Kinda crazy. But generally, iPhones do last sizably longer than their Android counterparts. Now, that's not a knock on Android, but it is easier to buy a used iPhone than it is a used Android phone. I came to realize what I said before was actually not completely true. My first iPhone was an iPhone 5S back in 2017, and back then, that thing ran like a charm. However, if I were to use that today, I guarantee you I would not have the same experience. I also had the iPhone 7 in 2019, which I bought off eBay for like, I think it was like 150 quid. It was a bargain. But yeah, if we notice, both of those phones were around the 3-year-old mark. What's more with that is because iPhones are manufactured by Apple, obviously, security updates come with operating system updates, so you don't really need to dig into that as much as you do on certain Android phones, which just makes the process a little bit easier overall. That said though, if you are planning to use your phone as a daily driver, I wouldn't really recommend going older than 3 years, despite the fact that most of them last for like 5, purely because you will be missing out on a lot of the new features. A kind of double-edged sword about the tech market is that it is currently moving very quickly, so while a 4-year-old iPhone will certainly do you for the next year or so, you may find yourself needing to upgrade sooner than you might want to. I personally wouldn't recommend going anything older than the iPhone 8, and as for price to performance sweet spot at the moment, I'd still recommend the iPhone 10. Honestly, that phone has aged amazingly well. I mean, check eBay right now. You can get them for like $200. Some other things you might want to consider when buying a refurbished or used phone is going to be the selling value later on if you decide to upgrade. Honestly, you can just do this by going back a few generations and checking eBay. But yeah, after that, all you gotta do is find a trusty seller and get the phone of your dreams. Alright guys, so that's it for today. I hope this has been helpful. My neighbor is mowing their lawn. As always, this is just my personal opinion. Let me know, by the way, how old you go when buying a used phone. Always like reading your comments. As for now though, as always, thank you for watching. Remember to like the video. If you want to see more content like this, then smash that subscribe button. I'm done for now, and I will see you guys in the next one.